Rob Staton is with us. The Rob Staton Show. It's brought to you by Superior Linen Service, family owned and operated since 1926. Give them a call, 253-383-2636. Visit them at suplinen.com. They deliver the highest quality products and service to the greater Puget Sound area. Rob is with us for his weekly visit, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Check out his YouTube channel, Rob Staton Football. Follow him on Twitter, Rob Staton. All right. Jim, you ask Rob a question about DK. What do you think he'd command? So you go ahead and ask him.
Well, God, just a couple things. If I can ask a two-part question for you, Rob. Is it true, do you think, that DK is he elite or just really good based on, concerns about his route running and maybe not producing the way we expected, a guy that is a physical specimen like he is? And then on the trade market, we were speculating a second and a third, but I don't think for receivers out there, especially in the NFL, got all these different trades, you never seem to get that much back. You couldn't get a first for him, could you?
First question, obviously elite traits, but just there's been too many parts of his game that have not been elite, which have prevented him from taking the next step. If you watch somebody like Julio Jones at his best, Mike Evans, they are also physically elite. You could just throw the ball in their general direction. They'd box the defender out and they'd win 1v1s. DK Metcalf has never done that in his career. He is a straight line runner. He can take the top off a defense, but he's never been able to take that next step. His hands are inconsistent. There was always a maddening 15-yard penalty around the corner, and that has prevented him from becoming a truly elite player. On the question of his value, I don't know what you're going to get for him, but what I would say about him and this draft is, first of all, you have not got an amazing receiver class in terms of the first round. It's good in the second, third, fourth round range, but you have not got a ton of receivers who are going to go early. So if you are a team, let's say Green Bay, there is immense amount of pressure on Brian Gutekunst to find a number one receiver. And he may not be able to find that in the draft. If he brings in DK Metcalf, all of Green Bay will go, fair enough. You've then got other teams. You've got, let's say, the Buffalo Bills desperately need a number one receiver. The Chiefs. There's teams like that. There's going to be teams at the top of the second who need somebody like him. And as much as we can sit here and all agree that he is a flawed player with great traits, he's a big, flashy name who's 27 years old. And NFL teams love to trade for players like this. So I would not be surprised if you get a pick between 23 and 45 for DK Metcalf.
Okay. Late first, early second.
That'd be my guess, but let's see, because it's always hard to predict these things, isn't it? Sometimes you get blown away by a trade compensation, and sometimes you think, is that it? I mean, when Joe Tooney was traded to the Bears for a ham sandwich earlier, you're thinking, is that it? So, but I know he's 32, but hopefully the Seahawks are going to get a better deal than that.
I'm just trying to think. I'm going back. A.J. Brown trade.
That was about the 18th overall pick.
Was that what it was?
It was about that, yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to find the exact details. I know I can't find it. There's some rumor about him going to New England right now. All right. Give me a second.
Well, Rob, if they get a reasonable return for DK
for the 8th, hold on. Hey, Jim, hold on. Hold on 1 second. I just wanted to get it's for the 18th and the 101st overall picks. That was the deal. A.J. Brown from the Titans to the Eagles.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's your show. Reasonable return.
Goddamn right it is.
If you get one more time, if you get a reasonable return for Metcalf, would you be on board with that?
Yes. I think the fact that he has requested a trade on a day that should be for celebrating Tyler Lockett is classless. And maybe that's unfair to sort of point that. Maybe there's other reasons why it's come out now, about an hour after Tyler Lockett's announcement. But I think that is poor on his behalf. So I've kind of lost any kind of faith in him. And then the great opportunity that is now here for John Schneider to finally deliver on the thing that he's been talking about for so long. He has said repeatedly that they want to be a team that is built up front, that they want to be this type of team. You've now got a head coach who is saying that. So if you get a reasonable return for DK Metcalf, time to put your money where your mouth is. Go and use the resources that you get to build a tough, physical, trench-based football team. You are going to have an opportunity to do that now. So if you move on from him, save that money, you will have more free agency money to go and get Will Fries next week, who has to be the guy they have to go on the side. Maybe they can go and get Drew Dahlman as well. Who knows? And then you've got first-round picks, potentially more than one, maybe a couple of twos to go and reinforce your team. And as much as I've just said there's no top-end receivers in this draft, there are good number twos. Emeka Egbuka's from Tacoma. He's a massive Seahawks fan. He talks about the Seahawks all of the time. Like, he is a huge Seahawks fan. He'd be really good to go alongside Jackson Smith-Jigba. Really smart character guy. A legendary leader at Ohio State. There's players like that you can go. Jalen Noel. So you can replace DK Metcalf in this draft, but go and make sure that those trenches are absolutely reinforced. You've got a chance to do that if you trade DK Metcalf.
Yeah, you go back and all the the look of how they've built their teams in the past. I was looking for a different word. Evidence of how they view the wide receivers. You go back to when they won the Super Bowl. Listen, they didn't have an elite wide receiver. Not one of them. No. Look who their group was. They didn't win the Super Bowl, get back there because of elite wide receivers. And if they want to get back and play that style of football, they can just look back as evidence. Listen, and I'm not taking anything away from those wide receivers. But Doug Baldwin, Jermaine Kearse, Golden Tate. I mean, that wasn't elite. They won because of defense, good offensive line, and they ran the ball. And that's what they want to be again. So from their perspective, I guess people would ask this question, right, Rob and Jim? Why would they entertain trading him? Well, because why would we spend all this money on a wide receiver if we're really not going to throw the ball all over the place? We want to get back to running the ball.
Exactly.
So it makes sense to, yeah.
Exactly. And there's players in this draft that you can go and get Kyle Williams. You guys will be happy with that.
Let's go. Give me Kyle Williams.
Where's he going to go, Rob? I mean, what would you guess? What round?
I've got a third round grade on him, and he could go in round 3, round 4 would be my guess.
Yeah, he's a first round grade for me and Jim.
Of course. It'll be a bargain then.
Hey, Jim, you know who I love? And just because we watched him play one game, and I know it was against our horrific secondary, someone's got to tell me, maybe he's bad somewhere. I don't know where it is. Give me Nick Nash out of San Jose State.
Nick Nash, what a player.
That dude is a beast. And now I know he torched us. But Jesus, man, Jim, right? When you saw him play,
over 200 yards.
That guy's good. And he looked like an NFL wide receiver already.
Was he at the combine?
He didn't do any running or anything, so he didn't perform. But I don't even think he was invited. But I had him in sort of 3rd, 4th round range, and I'm down for a bit of Nick Nash. There's a lot of people who like Nick Nash. He has his own little fan club online, so good. He'd be an interesting pick. I'm up for that.
Yeah, man, I watched that guy. Remember, we did a good job in the first half against him. Like, oh, well. And then he obliterated the Cougs in the second half. You got any more questions for Rob before you go, or do you want to stick around? What do you want to do?
Oh, I'm good. I mean, Rob has got all the information. Okay. I lack in the inside area when it comes to the NFL.
It's not true.
I mean, I'm pretty good when it comes to opinions and bullshit, though.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll cut you loose.
Okay. Thanks, Buck.
See you, buddy. There he is, Jim Moore. Monday,
you,
Wednesdays, and Fridays, the go-to guy with us, brought to you by A Clean Streak and, of course, the home course. Well, we're going to discuss, we'll get into the combine, your thoughts, but the one thing I would say about the DK this day, and I mean, clearly this is coming from his agent the day that Lockett, I don't know, maybe the agent had no idea. Maybe that's it. But I would assume, but when he requests this trade, what does that tell you? He doesn't like what they're offering?
I mean, I don't know. I just got the sense listening to people that maybe it was trending this way. Maybe the Seahawks have kind of had enough, and DK wants a fresh start. And I get the sense in the language that Schefter used in his tweet that there might be some bad blood here when he said he wants to play for a contender. Yeah. That is a dig at the Seahawks. Yeah. And look, he's not completely incorrect, because they haven't been a contender for a number of years. And in saying that he wants to go to a contender, that automatically rules out a whole bunch of teams who are picking at the top of round 2 who are definitely not contenders. It means that he wants to go to the Bills or the Chiefs or the Packers or somebody like that. So we will see what happens from this. I think both parties have just had enough. I don't know if the contract negotiations have led them down that path. I don't know if there was something else maybe that was frustrating them behind the scenes. There's been all this talk that they were at least listening to offers over the combine. So maybe this has been on the cards. I have to say, Puck, I'm not tied to any player on the team. Like it just for me, it's about the Seahawks. And
I agree.
When they're moving on from DK Metcalf and ultimately with Tyler Lockett, who we all have immense respect for, I kind of feel like it's been inevitable. Let's get on with the next group of players who are gonna try and drive this team forwards. And that's what I want to know what they're going to get for DK. I want a resolution to this ASAP. I want to be able to do mock drafts with the Seahawks having extra picks now, and I want to sort of think about what they could do because. It's not a great draft at the top end. If you've got a top 10 pick, you're going to be frustrated this year. But there is some depth in this draft. So if you end up with a 2 and a 3, you can make great use of those picks. If you end up with a 1 and a 4, you can make great use of those picks.
Yeah.
There's a great opportunity in this class with the depth and the talent and some of these interesting players that are in it to really drive your team forwards with young talent.
We brought it up earlier about what did A.J. Brown get? Just, again, both of these guys played at Ole Miss. They are very comparable players. They've always kind of been tied together since coming into the league. And remember, he was traded back when he was at 18th in the 101st overall pick. He was entering the final year of his rookie deal when he was traded. And at the time he was traded 3 years younger than DK Metcalf. So just keep that in mind when we're, because that will be a comp. Well, what did AJ Brown get? 18th and 101st overall, and we'll see what DK gets, or if they end up, you can always resolve this stuff. If they come to him and give him a contract that he's like, okay, I'll take that, then whatever. He requested a trade, but now they give him the money. So I don't think the door is shut on him coming back. But I just think obviously with the philosophy, right, Rob, of this organization, what we just touched on a little bit ago, they want to get back to how they used to play football. They've made that clear from day one this offseason. And I think getting back to the way that they used to play football doesn't really have a wide receiver that makes a ton of money. And certainly not paid like an elite one, and they've never had that until DK.
And you look at some of the recent teams that have got to the Super Bowl. I know that the Eagles are a different kettle of fish, and you can't really count the Chiefs because they've got Patrick Mahomes. But look at the Niners. Like the Niners have been Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, a quarterback who works in the system. And they've ended up paying Brandon Ayuk, and they had Deebo Samuel, but Deebo Samuel's not been at his best for a few years now. Brendan Ayuk is a player that they drafted in a good value spot. Wow. Has done a good job for them, but he's been paid an absolute fortune. This is not a team that was run through its receivers. And if you want to be that kind of team, you want to run that kind of offense, which is why they've appointed Clint Kubiak, you don't need those big name receivers. You just need disciplined, professional, crisp route runners.
Yeah, I mean, the one, I guess, and I agree with you. The one counter with that would be, and we'll see what happens here in the next year or two with how they attack the salary cap, would be the Eagles. I mean, they've got money tied up with AJ Brown. But did I just see somewhere they're even thinking about trading AJ Brown now?
There's been a bit of talk
to the Patriots.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, his name has been sort of doing the rounds, but I don't know how viable it is. I think it's a good reminder to everybody that there's several ways to skin a cat. And in the NFL, you can win a championship with a high-octane passing offense led by big-name receivers. But you can also win it with great defense, a tough physical running game, a playmaking running back like the Eagles had, and smart quarterback play. And I think that's where the Seahawks need to go now, because that's what they've said they want to do. I got a bit bored of the Seahawks saying they want to be this trenches team, and then they go and draft a skill player in round one again, or a cornerback. You can think, come on, this is what you want to be now. I'm looking at this draft, I'm looking at the board, and you're saying there's a whole bunch of defensive linemen, there's a whole bunch of offensive linemen that you can go and target here. And yes, I'm very prepared for them to go, and there's some interesting receivers. And even in the first 2 or 3 rounds, there's some very interesting receivers if you want to replace him early. But first and foremost, it will be unacceptable if we're sat here in a week or maybe in a couple of weeks, because it starts next week, and we're looking at an offensive line that still doesn't look fixed. They have got to fix this. The pressure's on John Schneider.
Especially when you're watching the Bears, right? You're watching the Bears, what they're doing with their offensive line, and then the reported trade now for Tunia or for Kansas City. What was it, a 4th-round pick for the All-Pro?
In 2026. A 4th rounder next year.
Now they owe him $15 million, right? Is that the deal?
Yeah. I mean, they could lessen that by extending him, so they could tack another year on and lower that. The thing is the pressure's on John Schneider here. This trade request, it increases pressure. He's got to get a good deal. You know, if Metcalf goes somewhere else and succeeds, that increases pressure.
Of course.
Schneider has got to go and fix the offensive line. He has to be seen to have success in the veteran market this year because his free agent signings bombed last year. He's just had to release Draymond Jones. I think the team is constantly on the periphery of the playoffs rather than actually feeling like not only someone who could qualify, but someone who could actually make some noise in the playoffs. And if we get out of free agency and he has not done anything significant to the offensive line, or worse, he has done something significant, but it's a bad mistake. Like I would think paying Aaron Banks, San Francisco, a ton of money, a player who's never done anything in the NFL. Then if he comes out of this and it's another whiff, then the pressure ramps up big time on Seattle's GM. Alternatively, if he gets a good deal for DK Metcalf, if he can go and pull a rabbit out of the hat next week and go and get Will Fries and or Drew Dolman, then people will be feeling a lot more positive about life.
Yeah. I would like to know where because you are right. And I brought that up before you came on with Jim, just about the last point there that Schefter had in the tweet that he prefers a contender. And I'm like, that feels like a real subtle, not so subtle shot at the Seahawks organization, because they would tell, whether we believe it, they would say we're contenders. We're contenders. We're contenders every single year. I would like to just know where the falling out was. I'm just trying to rack my, brain around this past season. Was there writing on the wall? Was there anything that happened? And I think mostly, where he had a moment or a stretch of games where he was dominant and then it cooled off and he dealt with the injury and all that. But I think there was one sideline or one on-field incident now, but it wasn't out of control crazy. And I guess the frustrating part with him, Rob, is, and you said it at the get-go with Jim, is as I've felt about him, he has the elite traits. He just has not become the type of wide receiver that I thought he would become. And where you look at his size and his speed, and I just don't know how he doesn't dominate more. And I hear all this talk, and for people who defend him, who understand a lot of football better than I do, about, well, he's double-teamed a lot. Well, isn't Justin Jefferson double-teamed? Isn't Mike Evans double-teamed? I mean, all these guys everyone's double-teamed if you're a good wide receiver, but they still find themselves open and getting balls. Like, he's not the first wide receiver in the history of the NFL to be double-teamed. You're telling me Michael Irvin wasn't double-teamed when he was playing for the Cowboys?
Well, Mike Evans is perhaps the most underrated player of his generation. He's going to be he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's been unbelievable with Tampa Bay. And it's amazing because he is everything that you'd sort of expect in an NFL superstar. And he's got all of the production and all of the wins. And yet it doesn't seem to get anywhere near as much attention as some of these other players who are lesser players. And yet you could just throw the ball in his direction. I mean, he's done it against Seattle on multiple occasions when we played the Bucs, is that he will just come down with the football. And that is what you hoped DK could be. He has never become that. The one thing with him is, and this is, this is going to be hopefully help the Seahawks, is that he can get downfield. And if you remember the Green Bay game last season in Lumen Field, they attacked Seattle, down the field very, very well. And they may think, look, Jordan Love can throw downfield to this guy and he can just take the top off. Josh Allen needs a player like this who can get downfield with a big body and just make those big chunk plays downfield. And there will be teams, and look, Mahomes and the Chiefs may well think that way as well. So, I think there will be teams that look at this. I do wonder a little bit. I mean, maybe there are questions to be asked, Puck, about he's leaving, Tyler Lockett's leaving. What is the state of this team right now? Where is it at? Where is it as a team? Are the people behind the four walls at the VMAC? Is everybody sort of pulling in the right direction here? Is everybody on the same page? Is this a well-run organization? It kind of feels like it is, but you never really know, do you? And I don't know. Maybe there was some people will have those fears moving forward now. Is there a danger of the wheels coming off a little bit here?
Well, okay. I mean, I think that the Lockett thing was inevitable. That was always going to happen. They were never going to bring him back under that number. For DK, I mean,
but Lockett, he's pretty much said goodbye today. There's no kind of like, well, he might come back. So it does feel kind of final on this. Is that maybe I'm just sort of thinking out loud on that. It just
no, I understand. I understand what you're saying, but I do think that based on. I think based on what he was going to make, and I just think his age, I think they had to move in a different direction. Maybe he'll go someplace and he'll be productive, and then they'll be like, oh my God, why did the Seahawks get rid of him? Why did they not pay him the money? He just had another productive season in a better offense. That could very well happen, but. I mean, I don't know. He seemed like he was, he's reaching that point in his career where he was kind of done. Maybe they could find a younger option that can provide more, maybe build the offense more around, Jackson Smith and Jigba. We'll see it'll be interesting to see what his numbers do this next season, because, if he doesn't have a DK there or somebody else there, now, does he get all the attention? And now are we going to talking about, well, he's double teamed all the time, so he's not ever getting the ball, but.
What do you think this means for Geno Smith?
I thought about that. See, I brought that up with Jim. I thought, does DK and his people know something about Geno that we don't know yet? Does he know that maybe they're not going to offer him something, that maybe there's a chance that they get rid of him? I don't know. I think I would say this, Rob. I think everything's on the table. This is why I don't understand when people in our business, and I'll lump everybody in it, speak in absolutes all the time. This won't happen, and I just remember I remember years ago when we were back on radio, the whole Russell Wilson thing, and I would just listen to people go on and on about how, well, there's no chance they'll trade him. You don't know that. No one knows that other than John Schneider at the time and Pete Carroll. Like, you don't know that. And then the same thing started to happen with DK Metcalf when people go on and on about, well, there's no way they're going to trade him. That's foolish to even think that. You can have your opinion can be, I wouldn't trade him, but to speak in absolutes, I think is always foolish. And I'll never speak in absolutes. So I won't speak in absolutes with Geno Smith. I think everything's on the table with him. And I don't care. You and I have talked about this a million times before, probably. I don't care what they say publicly. I don't care what Mike McDonald says at the Combine or what John Schneider says at the Combine or on his flagship radio station. I don't care. They're professional liars. They just are. They're never going to tell you the truth. It's not their job to do that.
I'm really intrigued to see what happens now, because I kind of figured that they were John Schneider spelled it out. They were having their talks last Friday, and it's now Wednesday. And I think when he did his initial deal after the Combine, it was the Tuesday or the Monday after the Combine when they got that done. So, there's always a chance we could hear something today, tomorrow, Friday, or whatever, where they get this done. But the longer it goes into the week, I guess it becomes more of an issue that they haven't come to a compromise agreement. And then what happens? Do the Seahawks just sit on the $44.5 million cap hit? They've created plenty of cap room now. They could do that. Do they look around? The problem is there are so few alternative options out there.
Hey, Gardner Minshew's available.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, I mean, is Sam Darnold going to be available?
Yeah, he's going to be so expensive, and he will be available now because he's not been tagged. So right. I guess he's an option.
Could work out a smaller deal. I know there's been talk of a smaller deal with Minnesota, but
yeah, and then you're into the sort of the dance that everybody else is. Aaron Rodgers, Daniel Jones. Justin
Bring Aaron
Fields.
Rodgers to Seattle. Let's go. Let's get the train wreck that is Aaron Rodgers.
This is kind of why I suppose I said what I said before, is that all of a sudden you've got this relatively unknown, like what is happening with Geno? What's happening with DK Metcalf? What's going on here? Are they just on top of their brief and if every right decision's being made here, or Is there something wrong? I don't know. When stuff is happening like this, when there's drama, you can't help but think it could be anything.
Well, and I think just back to your original point about Geno Smith, does it? I mean, he's under contract, so he technically can't go anywhere. But is he now wondering, well, what the hell?
He could request a trade.
Yeah, I got one of the best options. Well, the best option I had to throw to is now requesting a trade. The other guy, again, I know is aging and had a down year for him. He's gone. And now who am I throwing to? I'm throwing to JSN, who's great, and then who else? That's it. Jackson Smith, the Jigba show.
It's a big need now. There are receivers out there, thankfully. It is quite a strong, not strong, that's the wrong word. It is there are names out there that you could bring in to sort of pad out your depth chart at receiver. And there's draft options, but it is all of a sudden like now you've only got JSN. There's nobody else. If you move DK Metcalf, there is nobody else. Now, maybe I think one of the speculative suggestions was that if you trade him to Green Bay, you get a receiver back from them. So maybe that would be part of any deal, is that they need somebody back who can be a 3 or a 2 for Seattle. I don't know. I'd personally rather have the draft stock than that, but we'll see.
And March 16th is the date for Geno, right? That's the $10 million roster bonus.
I believe so. They've got to sort this out, and then on top of all of this, there's the sort of the need to add to the offensive line.
Yeah.
And you brought up Chicago earlier. It's hard because if you are a Bears fan right now, there's no guarantee that Jonah Jackson and Joe Tooney are going to work out, or that that the Bears line will be great. But if it fails, the fans will be able to turn around, Puck, and go, I understood the plan. And that's in Seattle. We've not had a plan on the offensive line that you and I could sit on a show and go, this is great, isn't it? This is really understandable. I can see what they're doing here, rather than just Lake and Tomlinson, he'll do. Better sign Connor Williams in August. That's not a plan.
Yeah, I mean, it's where they're going to go forward now in free agency, and maybe this is part of the plan to sit there, and if they can move him, not have to pay DK. They've already made the moves, obviously, with the releases yesterday with Jenkins and Draymond Jones and Roy. What was it? Roy Robertson Harris. He's gone, so they've saved $27 million. I'm going to miss Roy. I really am. I'm
going to miss the impression. I almost hope he comes back for that. Can I just say on a positive note?
Yes, go positive.
On a positive note, and look, this is a positive because I do think the Seahawks need to draft a quarterback at some point. Yeah. I thought the quarterbacks who performed at the combine, even sort of the lesser names, had a good session. I thought that was a good combine for most of the quarterbacks who were there. And I think if the Seahawks want to draft somebody to have them, as many people have called for, to have them developing behind the scenes as a potential heir apparent, I think they will have that opportunity this year.
Who did you like the most?
Well, I was most surprised by Tyler Shook. I think that he is somebody who I'd watched. I think it's a bit of a mixed bag, his tape. Obviously, he's had some injuries. He's an older player. I was blown away by an interview he did with Todd McShay, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. And then to watch his workout I thought he was really, really impressive. But he wasn't the only one. Like, I thought Jackson Dart had a good throwing session. I thought Quinn Ewers was very good. I think that Riley Leonard had a really good workout as well. I don't think Will Howard had the best workout. I don't think it was as bad as some people were making out. And then at the sort of the lower end, people like Brady Cook had a really good workout. So I think it was a good day for the quarterbacks who worked out there. And I'm more convinced than ever that they will draft a quarterback at some point.
Yeah, Tyler Shough is just getting a lot of praise, a lot of hype. And he's a guy who bounced around a lot in college. And I believe, I should pull it up, he started at Oregon, then went to Louisville, went to Texas Tech, then Louisville, right? Yeah,
he did. And the thing about him is he ran a 4.64, so he's athletic.
Yeah,
he's about 6'4", 6'5", 220 pounds, 10-inch hands. He can throw it from different angles. He's mobile. He can run. He can throw it downfield. He had some good throws against Georgia Tech in particular. Now, there are some bad plays as well. He's not flawless, and if he was flawless, he'd be the first overall pick. Right. But there's just something about him that I like. And I would encourage people to go and listen to the interview that he did with McShay, because you will instantly like the guy. He's
comes across as a leader.
So down to earth, but it's got the bit between his teeth and really determined. He sort of asked why are you sort of doing it? He says, listen, I thought I wasn't going to be able to have a football career, and I'm at the combine. Heck yeah, I'm going to run and jump and do all of that stuff. Why would I want to not do this? It's amazing.
I love that. And that would be the one criticism, and I think a lot of people share. This is nothing new, is for these guys that don't participate. And I understand, like, I get the reasoning. Well, why would I want? If I go throw, I'm going to have a Will Howard where I'm overthrowing guys because I never get a throw to these guys and I've got no prep with them. But that's what I want to see. And I think that's what these guys want to see. How do you perform when you are thrown into an uncomfortable position? Because playing quarterback, you're uncomfortable all the time. And how do you react? And how do you perform? How do you lead? How do people gravitate towards you? Are you a leader out there? Can you get them to follow you? I think that's a lot of why these personnel people want to see these guys perform out there. So I think it was wrong for all of those guys who didn't perform. I would say that for Ashton Genty too, but we focus more on the quarterbacks. But for Sanders and Ward, I think it's a mistake. But
there was a whole bunch of guys who didn't do anything or picked and choose what they did at the combine. And I have to say, I think one of my favorite things was that Tyler Booker, who was top, went to the perfect football high school, went to Alabama, 5-star recruit. Everybody thinks he's going to be a top 15 pick, has absolutely no reason to do anything. And he's 325 pounds, goes out there, runs a horrendous 40, has a horrendous set of jumps, does nothing well, is getting absolutely hammered on Twitter because, of course, Twitter knows what he's talking about. And now everyone's saying he's and I'm thinking, let's watch the drills, man. The guy looks like one of the best guards already in the NFL, and he's not even there yet. And he is going to be a high pick. And he had no reason to do any of that. It's not done him any favors at all. But he went out there and competed. And I tell you now, teams will appreciate stuff like that. He went out there and said, I don't care. I'm doing it. I'm here.
And I will say this about, to the point about Will Howard. I didn't sit and watch it like you did. Did I see the viral clips of Will Howard? Yeah. And did it look good? No, it looked terrible, some of those passes. But I would just fall back on, and again, not watching every Ohio State game, but the guy I saw out there, you can see the traits of a guy that can be a good NFL quarterback. And I'm always, like most people, like all these personnel guys, I'm going to default to what they did in the actual game. Like, how did they perform? How do they lead? How do guys rally around? When you see a Will Howard like post game, and how does he talk after a loss, and how does he talk after a win? That stuff's more important to me.
Do you know what's really important about Will Howard? Sure. Is people will hammer him for the Michigan game. Here's the thing. Teams will love that. Teams will love that he had the single most impactful setback that you could possibly have as the Ohio State quarterback in that situation, losing to Michigan. And his response to that loss was then to go and win the national championship. Yeah. That is perfect. Talking of perfect, 97.4 QBR in those 4 playoff games. When the heat is on, that's not 97.4 isn't just, it's pretty good. That's nearly perfect in 4 games. And I'm telling you now, Puck, it won't be every team, because it never is, but there will be a handful of teams. It only takes one who will think that I want that guy as my quarterback. He will go in, I think, in the second round, because someone is going to go, get me Will Howard. That's the guy I want as the quarterback of this franchise.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be fascinating. I think the draft's going to be fascinating. It's going to be fascinating if the Giants move up and try to get Cam Ward, and then how does Cam Ward do with being that and having to be a real face of a franchise, and let's say it's the Giants, and then in that media market dealing with it. And then, what happens to Shedeur Sanders, and where does he end up going, and do teams pass on him because of just how they feel about him? And there's just so much drama and intrigue about this year's draft. It's fascinating every year, but it just feels like it's more fascinating this year than any other year.
There's a ton of storylines, and it could get more interesting for the Seahawks if we all wake up tomorrow and they have the 23rd overall pick to go with number 18. You start, your mind starts to go. The one thing, this is probably should have mentioned this earlier, is the last time they traded a player in this kind of situation at this age was Frank Clark. And I can remember when they traded Frank Clark to the Chiefs, and they got a first and I think it was a second the following year. And I can remember being so excited because I run a draft blog. So they've got 2 first-round picks. They're amazing. Look, think of all this great. We've got a week to talk about it. It's amazing. And they spent those picks ultimately on LJ Collier and Marquise Blair. So if they're going to make a trade like this, they have to learn from that. They can't afford to cock this up. Frank Clark went on to win a couple of Super Bowls. I don't want DK Metcalf to be sporting a couple of nice rings in a few years' time while the Seahawks are cutting their 2 picks that they got in return.
Why have you? I'm interested in this, and you and I talking earlier. Not necessarily you've changed your tune. I don't think that's fair to say. You've been very high on Dahlman, the free agent center for Atlanta, but now you tell me, hey, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need this Will Fries guy. Now tell me about why is Will Fries? Why is he caught now your attention?
Oh. Well, I didn't know anything really about Will Fries other than he played for the Colts. And I thought, I better watch this. I better watch him. I put a tweet out saying, go and get Drew Dahlman. I thought, I've not studied any of these Will Fries. And I'd studied Aaron Banks at Notre Dame, but I'd not studied Fries. And then I had a look at his profile. And I'm thinking, okay, he's really athletic. He had a good career at Penn State. He's explosive. What's happened here? Then I watched the tape. Oh, my word. So last week we were talking about how perfect Gray Zabel was with his zone blocking tape. It was like that, but NFL version with Will Fries. He just did everything superbly. Everything that you want to see from a zone blocker, you could see from Will Fries. And it was a real sort of eye-opener. You've got to get this guy. He just looks perfect for them. Perfect. And you could slot him in. I know he played right guard for the Colts. He played everywhere for Penn State. He can move over to the left. I just thought this player is the guy. He is the one. You have got to go and get Will Fries next week. He's coming off a broken leg, so maybe the price is going to be a bit more realistic than it will be for someone like Drew Dahlman. Go and get Will Fries. If the Seahawks can go and get him right off the bat, it takes a lot of pressure off John Schneider. It frees things up for the draft. And if you can go and get him in, then go and try and get yourself a center as well.
Hey, if you said this in our conversations, I apologize for bringing this up, and you're like, you're an idiot. I told you that months ago. When I was talking to Dane Brugler, who works at The Athletic and who joins us for a series leading into the NFL draft, about Gray Zabel, he mentioned center. Yeah. When we've discussed, have we talked about him at center?
Yeah, I mean, I made a passing comment last week, but but nothing more than that. The problem that I have with him in center is the things that he does really well are getting out, on the run and getting into space, reaching up to that second level. I just love the way that when it comes his direction, he's got the sort of subtle technique you need in the zone blocking to sort of understand, I've just got to shove this guy out the way and there'll be a cutback lane there. The minute that you ask him to get under center and actually snap the football, you are taking all of that away because his immediate priority is to snap the football and then shoot his hands. And what I want him is I want him on the line. I don't want to be able to move him around, or I want him to reach up to that second level. I don't want him to have to bother with the snap. Plus, he's 6'6", so immediately the leverage issue of playing at center, and I think we saw that at the Senior Bowl. I think his tape's amazing. I thought his Senior Bowl was massively overrated. He kept getting shoved back into the quarterback, and I don't think he's got that because of the height. I think he just basically is a big target on his chest when he's at center to be shoved backwards. So right. I would rather play him at guard and have him in that. I think that's his natural home. And then listen, if they get the chance to draft Zabel and they bring in Will Fries, I'd have no problem. Look, Christian Haynes, thanks. You're a good depth player. Like, I don't care. Like, I'd have those two. But I think if you can get Fries in, it takes the pressure off, and then you go and get a center as well. And there's lots of good players in this draft who are not offensive linemen. You can
league's about competition, Rob. You know that. I mean, like, and just everything, not just this league, but any league. You shouldn't be scared away because you drafted someone the previous year and you can't. And if you find someone in the upcoming draft that you find is better than what you got last year, then pull the trigger. Like, because you are acquiring the best talent you possibly can. I would say this about, and I like Kenneth Walker. If they value a running back in this draft, they feel is better than Ken Walker, then draft him.
Absolutely.
I just don't hesitate. Just don't go, well, we got Ken Walker, so we don't need that. No.
It's got 1 year left.
Yeah, right. And and has an issue of staying healthy. Well, I mean, this is a very newsy day. I don't even think we covered everything with you. We got the combine thoughts on the quarterbacks, talked offensive line, talked a lot about DK Metcalf. Man, newsy.
Things are happening.
How many words are you gonna write on this, DK? My God.
The thing is I had the day off work today, so
yeah.
I wrote something about free agency, and now I'm gonna have to go and write something about DK Metcalf.
Oh.
It's just I can't help it though. I'm an absolute psycho for this stuff, and I'm going to go and write that now. I should really take a couple of days off. I have got a horrendous work drive, like 7 hours for a broadcast on Friday, so that might be so hopefully nothing happens then. But
okay, get some rest, all right? Let us know how we and the viewers can help, all right? Rob, thanks for always doing it. You're the best. We say that, and I always say that as like some crutch. You're the best, but you truly are, man. Love having you on every week. Thanks for always doing it, and we'll be on the lookout for your 10,000 word breakdown on DK Metcalf requesting a trade.
Thanks, man. See you next week.
See you. There he is, Rob Staton, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Follow him on YouTube as well. Rob Staton Football.